Whispers of the Lavender Wind. In the rolling hills of Provence, where lavender fields stretch like purple oceans and the wind carries secrets only lovers understand, lived a young woman named Alara. She was a florist in the quaint village of Saignan, known for her delicate arrangements and quiet heart. Each morning, she wandered the fields, gathering lavender and wild blooms, speaking softly to the wind as if it were her only companion. One summer evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the world in gold, a stranger arrived in the village. His name was Lucien, a travel photographer from Paris who had come seeking beauty, but not just in landscapes. With tousled hair, kind eyes, and a camera that hung from his neck like a second heart, he was drawn to the scent of lavender and the silence in Alara's smile. Their first meeting was simple, a question about the flower market, a comment about the light, a shared laugh over spilled petals. But the air around them shimmered with something unspoken, as if the universe paused to watch. Days turned into weeks. Lucien began visiting Alara's shop every morning, sometimes with a croissant in hand, other times just a smile. He would photograph her as she worked, her fingers threading through petals, her lips curved in focus. She blushed when he showed her the photos, surprised by how beautiful she looked through his lens. Alara, who had once believed her heart was too fragile for love, found herself waiting for Lucien's footsteps. He, who had wandered the world capturing sunsets and sorrow, realized he had found something rarer than any landscape, someone who made silence feel full. One evening, under the stars and among the lavender, Lucien confessed, "I came to Provence looking for a story. I didn't know it would be ours." Alara didn't speak. She took his hand, placed it over her heart, and whispered, "Stay." He did. They built a life of quiet joy. Mornings with coffee and laughter, afternoons chasing light through the hills, evenings filled with whispered dreams. Lucien's photographs of Alara and the lavender fields won awards across Europe, but he never left the village again. They grew old with sun-kissed cheeks and fingers forever laced. And each year, when the wind passed through the lavender, it carried the scent of a love that bloomed gently, but never faded. Whispers beneath the maple tree. It was early autumn in the quiet town of Windmere. The leaves had begun their slow, graceful descent, painting the cobblestone streets in hues of amber and gold. At the heart of town stood an old bookstore called Whispers and Pages, a quaint little shop with ivy-covered walls and a bell that chimed softly every time the door opened. It was here that Evelyn Carter, a quiet, passionate writer, spent most of her afternoons. Evelyn had always believed in love, not the loud, chaotic kind, but the gentle kind that unfolded like poetry. She poured that belief into the stories she wrote, yet ironically, had never found love herself. Her days were filled with books, coffee, and daydreams, until the day he walked in. His name was Noah Bennett, a travel photographer with a gentle voice, kind eyes, and a camera always slung around his neck. He had wandered into the shop seeking shelter from the rain, and in that simple moment, their worlds collided. At first, it was casual. Conversations about classic novels turned into deep talks about dreams and fears. He told her about the lonely beauty of Icelandic glaciers, and she read him lines from her unpublished stories. Slowly, the space between them began to shrink. He would show up with a camera full of distant skies, she'd greet him with a new chapter to read. In time, the bookstore became their sanctuary. One afternoon, as golden light filtered through the windows, Evelyn invited Noah to the old maple tree behind the shop, a place she often went to write. They sat beneath it for hours, speaking of everything and nothing, as the leaves whispered above him. That day, he reached for her hand, and the world seemed to fall into place. But as with all love stories, time tested them. Noah was offered a chance to lead a 6-month photo expedition across Europe. Evelyn was overjoyed for him, but her heart trembled at the thought of him leaving. They stood beneath the maple tree one last time before he left, and he promised, "No matter where I go, my heart will always come back to you." He wrote her letters from every country, pressed flowers between the pages, sent photos of sunsets and train stations with notes like "I saw this and thought of you." Evelyn waited patiently, her stories now filled with distant cities and a man who chased the light. When winter gave way to spring, Evelyn sat beneath the maple tree, alone but hopeful. She didn't know when he'd return. She only knew he would. And then, on a quiet April morning, as dew still clung to the grass, he came back. Camera around his neck, backpack on his shoulders, and in his hand, a single maple leaf from her favorite tree, preserved in a glass frame. "I saw hundreds of beautiful things," he said, kneeling before her, "but none of them compare to you." Evelyn smiled through her tears. "I waited." He took her hands in his and whispered, "Let's write our story together now." And they did. Together, they opened a little gallery next to the bookstore, a space where his photographs met her words. And every year, on the first day of autumn, they sat beneath the maple tree, remembering the day their story began. Because sometimes, love doesn't come in loud declarations. Sometimes, it arrives quietly, like a whisper in the fall, soft, sure, and meant to stay.